everybody. Um, Another reason why, besides having lousy blood sugars and diabetes and my blood sugars bouncing up and down, which ruined pretty much all of the rest of my working out today. Um, Another reason why I haven't been posting any videos for a whole week and a couple days is because just before Christmas, Sensei Bolden put up a video and asked the question because I think he said his purple belt was his hardest one. But he said, which uh, belt test was your hardest or most difficult? Um, for me, that's a very difficult question to answer, but I came up with the perfect answer. Those two certificates behind me, both black belt tests, were the hardest for me. Not because of the difficulty of the test. Um, all of my belt tests, to me, went pretty smoothly. I won't say totally easy. It was mostly the pressure I wasn't under to pass the test. Okay. Um, so that made me nervous. But other than that, they all had their level of difficulty. But I practiced my butt off when I learned my techniques. You know, you had to learn a certain set of blocks, like 3 or 4 blocks per belt, 3 or 4 kicks per belt. Some of them were 5 or 6 kicks, depending on what it was, or you know, which belt it was. But you had to remember all the movements, blocks, kicks, and punches, and then you had to remember a pumse or a kata, um, and then you had weapons techniques that you had to practice too. Um, where I studied, we did bow staff, nunchaku, and swords. So I guess you could say, with those two black belts, I have a black belt in nunchaku, sword, and bow staff. Um, anyway, the most difficult test for me was the black belt test because at the end of the test, I was hit with a total surprise. See, I was totally prepared because I practiced my butt off, all the movements, the kata, you know, and I knew the etiquette and how to speak in Korean at that time. We're talking 30 years ago, like Kyukie De Ham Kenya was bow to the flag, Sawu Nim master, um, you know, bow his foot, can't remember fist. Uh, Dobak was uniform, you know, that kind of thing. Uh, oh yeah, the black belt test. The black belt test was the hardest because I did not expect this. I passed all the stuff with flying colors. I did all the movements, not a problem. I was like, oh wow, that was even more perfect than the last time I did it. All throughout the tests, all of the tests were like that. I did very well, movement wise. Okay, but the black belt test at the end of the testing, they called us up each individually, each person who tested for the black belt. Oh yeah, and the breaking of the cinder block was, I'm not gonna say easy, but I did it. Uh, I did a palm strike, palm heel strike, yeah, like that. The black belt test was so hard only because when I got called up there, I thought, yeah, they're just gonna hand me my trophy and everything's gonna be good. And they stopped and they said, because I found out that's when I found out that martial arts wasn't about just being a badass and being really good at karate and perfect with your forms and everything else and etiquette. It was also about the type of person you are, because that's what they did to me. Is I was standing there waiting for them to say, "Okay, black belt, stand up and get your your black belt." And I was sitting cross-legged, at attention, waiting, listening as they were talking about the different movements that I did in the Pumse and my Nuncho Kukata and all that other stuff. And they asked the question, is there anybody in this room, all students of the class, and also some spectators who came to watch their family members pass or fail the test? Nobody ever showed up for my tests because I grew up poor, and that was part of the struggle too. Is I paid for all my own classes. I worked after high school job and paid for all my classes. Worked my ass off. I worked at Friendly's and I worked at Curly's Chicken House, both at the same time. Well, not at the same time, different hours, of course. And I did my martial arts classes. Anyways, though, they were testing my integrity because they asked, is there anybody in this class who can speak for Mr. John Allen? And the room was silent. And all of a sudden, beads of sweat just started pouring down me. I was so scared I was going to lose. I was going to fail the test because nobody answered for me. And I didn't understand too. I was actually getting a little bit upset because I did a lot in that class. And here's what obviously I got my black belt certificates, both tests. Steve, which was Master Park's cousin, worked for the dojo, did cleanup and stuff, painting and all that other stuff. He didn't actually attend classes, but he was there a lot during the classes and stuff, and he saw me all the time in the class, helping other students, showing them different movements as well, making sure they get it right. Anytime the dojo, after class, I was the only one who stayed after and helped Steve and Master Park actually clean up the dojo. And it wasn't my job. I just did it because after everything was done, cleaned up, as long as I didn't make a mess, I could stay and play for a half an hour until the next class. And that's what I did, practicing. So anyways, I didn't really talk with a lot of people. I only did, class things, helping other students and everything else. But Steve came up at the last second, just as I thought I was going to fail. And he spoke up for me, and he mentioned all the things that I did, how I helped carry in supplies and stuff, even though I didn't have to. I volunteered to. How I helped other students and everything else. And it was all about my integrity as a person. And that's one thing that a lot of people don't understand when they find out you learned martial arts, is they think it's all about just being a badass and being able to punch through boards and kick and punch and kick and punch and block and fight your ass off. And yeah, there's a lot of that stuff, but it's also about the person that you are and the person that you want to become, and being a better person, learning to rise above that negative action until you have to take action.